So with reporters, we actually have three report types. The first one is probably our most common. It's accessible reporters. Search for topics and will help you find reporters who have previously written on that topic who have contact information available, either Twitter or email, within their article. So you can definitely reach out to that person. So the second type is resource linkers, which is reporters who are writing perhaps more in-depth pieces or tips-based pieces that are linking out to pieces of content that have already been created. And then the third type, asking for audience input. And these are usually very short-term. Tell us great tips for traveling in Boston. So it's kind of like a mini hero search that you can do.
So how do we get this stuff? Let's have a look at it in the interface. How do we look for it in Link Prospector?
If you're doing a news report type, the search scope will automatically choose only news results, which is great because that's what we're looking for. And then you'll want to go down and in your research phrases, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, but you'll want to look for ideal phrases that your ideal reporters would use in articles or headlines. And it's a bit of a fun dance because you don't want to get too specific because then you're some out, but then if you get too general, you're going to get some results that probably aren't in line with exactly what you're looking for. So, for example, even with summer trip ideas, that seems along the lines of someone who's doing vacation rental. They'd be interested in a reporter writing about summer trip ideas. Try to put in if you're basing around a city or around a certain topic, try to put that in some of the research phrases too. But just again, as a reminder, research phrases are not put together. They're or phrases. So it just has to be a match of any individual one in order for it to come up in your results.
And again, the lesson here is, listen, practice them. What words are likely to be in the sort of stories that you're looking to get published?
And I would even recommend, go to your favorite search engine, you go to Google and mess around and just type in some phrases and see what comes up, see what's used a lot in the kind of stories you're looking for, and then run a Link Prospector report because then you're finding kind of results that you've already tested a little bit as opposed to just using credits on, guessing.
Okay. So what sort of results will we get for this test?
Accessible reporters. So as you can see, I ran that search and we got a lot of pretty big names in journalism.
Boston Globe, USA Today.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because, when I'm talking about traveling, those are pretty common topics. When I looked, again, the plus 118 or the plus 43 means there's 43 or 118 results within the Boston Globe that could apply. So there might actually be, and there probably are, multiple reporters that we could look at in a certain publication.
Well, one of the things I love about this, Megan, is when I'm researching journalists and outlets, I'll go to the media database, do that, and then I have got to go to the site and do all of these searches to find out, well, what's going on there. But Link Prospector is doing it here for me. All I have to do is press in the plus 118 or the plus 43, and then I see them. That's terrific.
We can go through some of the actual news results I found. I found a few for accessible reporters, and I really like this hotel star ratings yield galaxy of confusion. So this was a USA Today story about the confusion of star rating. So I thought this would actually be a great opportunity for someone that's doing vacation rentals to pitch themselves and say, hey, I do something different. Maybe you'd like to do a follow-up, or you'd like to report on how an interesting alternative to hotels is renting out someone's home. So I thought this could be just a really interesting way to incorporate this article, respond to it, and then suggest a different method for people who get sketched out by hotels that weren't what they were expecting.
Christopher Elliott, the reporter in this case, he's going to be interested in that stuff.
So I looked up his previous articles that he's written, and they're all travel related. These are all, 8 travel predictions, holiday survival guide, and travel. He's a great person to make contact with.
And the other thing, he's writing regularly for the same journal. Mm-hmm. So that again is a good sign. So we're spoiled now because we can go direct to the journalist's page and then we can see all of this stuff.
But for the resource linkers, I do have results for that too. And as you can see, it's a little, some of them you recognize, Huffington Post, WSJ, but some of them may be less recognizable. And that's just because we're searching for different things. These are different kinds of reporters, different kinds of stories. So these are people that may not have a beat on a particular topic, but are just sharing information in general. So this is a story in the Huffington Post that came up in our resource linkers results, and it's 8 tips for stress-free holiday travel. And within this post, there were many links out to different, some of her tips involved, oh, check this out for, related to this tip. This is how you de-stress. This is how you travel in an airport without having to get stressed about lines. So this is something that if you have written some great articles on, say, how vacation rentals bring you more peace in your vacation, then over a hotel, this might be a great way to pitch that resource, because there are people that are linking out to further information, even journalists.
Yes, and another great thing about this, it just gives you an idea of the types of stories that journalists write, so there's archetypal stories, so 8 tips and stress-free. These are things, so you can start thinking about your product in those terms. And if you can couch your product in those terms, then you can pitch it to a reporter like this. Great.
Yeah, exactly. And this, I also included her Twitter. This is the Twitter of Maria, the woman who wrote the 8 stress-free tips, because again, I think with a lot of organizations, a lot of journalists, being able to contact them via Twitter, it's something that's only about 10 years old, but it's a way the industry is going. For the next one, for audience input, even now we're kind of getting into even fewer that you probably recognize. There's some, the Telegraph, the Daily Post, but a lot of these are even less familiar. And I think the real thing to remember with the audience input campaign is, like I said, this is something you should be doing on a weekly basis. Shorten the time range to the past week, because these are very immediate, very much, you don't want something that came out months ago and is asking for audience input, because no one's looking at that anymore. And this is really more of an immediate brand building exercise. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting variety that you'll get in here, but you'll probably be introduced to some reporters and to some publications that you didn't even realize. And I found a really cool example. So apparently, this is also USA Today, but they do name that airport. And I think this is a weekly thing they do, which is just, they show a picture and can you name the airport? And you see that this guy, Andy Young, he was the person who named the airport of that week. Like I said, this is something really fast that happened probably over the course of a couple days. But if you're someone in the travel industry that wants to get your name out there, what better way? There are ways to just kind of interact with a journalist, interact with a publication, and get your name out there even further.
The other great thing about this is it's not all that hard to do. But if you are successful and you contact the journalist's likely to remember who you are, particularly if you've been helpful or funny or just good-natured. And it's possible then to build that relationship. And you've got a contact with a journalist that you can follow up and pitch a story to you if you've got the right story to pitch. So again, it's terrific.
Yeah, definitely. It's an easy way to make a contact. And I think, Ken, would you talk a little bit about, once you found all these journalists, how do you proceed next? What is the best way to reach out to them?
Now, one of the things about reporters that you've really got to remember is they get probably hundreds of pitches a day. And so the great majority of approaches they get just get ignored. So even more so than in link building, you've really got to make your pitch stand out. And the best way to make your pitch stand out is to pack in lots of news value. Oh, this is a really great story. Oh gosh, I didn't know that. Wow, I want to find out more.
That's true, yeah, and I think you said it very well.